Jacob Zillman, Speed Sport Magazine. Joey, with the ARCA Series being here this week, you really kind of got your launch as a development driver back, ran some races for Venturini Motorsports. What was that experience like, and what made them a good development situation for you as you were trying to work your way up into the National Series?
Yeah, I think at the time I was running a lot of the K&N Pro Series races before that, and you only got to run some of the bigger tracks, and big tracks were considered Dover and New Hampshire. It's just still only a mile long. We consider those short tracks in today's world, with in the Cup world at least. But ARCA was a great avenue to be able to get experience on mile and a halves, super speedways, things like that. So. Pocono, when you go there for the first time, a track that's so difficult and different than most other racetracks you go to, having those laps and experience was something that helped me as a driver quite a bit. So, able to run those. I ran a race here in Talladega and one in Daytona in the ARCA cars, and it gives you the ability to kind of learn a little bit about the draft. Obviously, it's when it's your first time, you don't really know what you're doing out there. You don't know what moves to make, and you can tell when you watch the race that there's inexperience and then some mixed in with some experience where some drivers know how to make the moves and some don't. And as you move up through the ranks, that draft changes so much because everybody knows what they're doing, and their race, the complex of the race looks completely different. So, it's just something that it's a good learning tool to get you to the next step, to get you a little bit of experience before you get out to the next level in the trucks and the Xfinity and the Cup.
Go back to Kelly.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. So Joey, after Richmond, Martin, the way you two had raced each other was clean and whatnot, but Martin says he doesn't know if you guys are good, obviously going back to what happened last fall. So are you two good, and has this whole thing get blown out of proportion every time you two are around each other on the racetrack?
I've never had a problem with him, so I guess that's his question to answer. No, I've never. I mean, hey, we were racing there towards the end of the race. I didn't feel like I got there in time to be able to make any moves. I needed to get by Clint a few laps earlier. By the time I kind of found some speed in the car, I was a little bit too late, and I just couldn't get there in time to try to make a pass. The only chance I really had to try to make a pass was going into 3, and that was it. So I needed a few laps to kind of set them up and catch some lap cars in the right spot and try to put them in the right spot to try to pass them. But I needed about, I don't know, instead of 400 laps, maybe 405 laps would have been the difference. But I'm sure there's plenty of times that we all can go back and forth and say the same thing. So it's overall, like I said, to be upset with second place is a good spot to be in as far as speed in our race cars and where we are in the season right now. So, if we can just, if we execute a little bit better, I think we're sitting here with 4 wins right now instead of 1. So we just gotta, like I said, after Richmond, just clean up some of our mistakes throughout the whole team, myself included. And when we clean those up, we'll have definitely more victories under our belt.
Go to Caleb.
Caleb Whistler, kicking the tires.net. The season enters the second quarter. How would you summarize the first quarter, and what do you feel like you need for the second quarter?
Yeah, I think we came out of the gate strong. The car has been fast. If I go through some of the races, Atlanta, we were in position to win with a loose wheel. I had to come down, in the last run. California, we finished second, and we should have finished there. We weren't fast enough to win there. When I look at some other races, Bristol, we were in position to win, and strategy bit us a little bit. Richmond, you can argue, when we lost the lead coming down pit road, was the difference of the losing control of the race, which could have been the win. There's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts throughout the first quarter of the season where, I feel like we were in position to win and we didn't capitalize. So, for me, I guess that only gives you a B, right? Because you got the speed and we didn't capitalize on the victories. But we have, solid finishes because we have speed in our cars. We're sitting second in points. We're not far out of where we need to be. But, it's tough to give those wins away when they're sitting right in front of you. But, we got a long ways before the playoff starts. And I know I'm confident we're going to clean that stuff up. It's not a big deal. I think we'll get to that point. It's just all about maintaining the speed that we have right now. That's the biggest piece is the speed that the Penske cars have and even the Gibbs cars have. It's going to be harder and harder to maintain that gap that we got. So we got to keep working hard to keep that as long as possible.
Go to Chris.
At ChrisKnight, Joey, multiple times this week, it's been mentioned that your craft of bump drafting is the best in the business, and I was just wondering, how do you feel like you've developed that craft and maintained it throughout your career, and how much do you expect to use it this weekend?
I don't know how the draft's going to work this week, but I do feel like as far as the bump draft is something that I've worked on a lot in Xfinity cars or even when we tandemed. I felt like I was able to do a good job at being able to latch on and stay attached for a long time when we were able to do that. So I kind of hope it gets to that point because I feel like it falls into a strength of mine. We'll have to kind of wait and see. I think this practice is going to be interesting to see if anyone can lock on to bumpers and go faster.